Hey guys, my name is Timio, and today I want to talk about the smoke grenade in Rainbow Six Siege. You might be thinking, really? We're going to talk about the smoke grenade? That thing is useless. Why in the world would you give it the time of day? Well, I thought that too for the longest time, but for whatever reason, recently, I have fallen in love with this gadget, and it has changed the way that I approach the objective on certain maps and made my life a hell of a lot easier when I am playing Rainbow Six Siege. Now, originally, the reason why I avoided this thing like the plague was because I felt like it was very inconsistent. If you guys are not aware, the smoke grenade itself is client-side, meaning that when you throw this into a building, every single person, even on your team and on the enemy team, sees a slightly different smoke grenade pattern. This is the reason why every once in a while, all of a sudden, you get shot through the smoke grenade, you watch the kill cam, and it looks like they just shot through a solid block of smoke. Like, how in the world did they see you? Well, on their end, they did see you. They're not hacking, they're not using some third-party software to see through the smoke. It's just the way that the game works right now. And while this is still an issue, and hopefully Ubisoft will address this in the future, once you learn how to avoid these situations and you use the grenade appropriately, it is incredibly useful basically every single time you are on the offensive team. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can use this, and probably the most basic is simply just to cover your flank when you are approaching an objective. There are some objectives that I hated to be on offense or hated to attack on offense because if you enter into the room, there's about a million different angles that you have to cover, and even if you are communicating with your teammates, there's too many for you to watch out for, and you die really annoying deaths. I would say if you're playing on Cafe, for example, if you're getting into the library room from the front entrance, it is almost impossible to do this without smoke grenades or with some amazing communication. And so now when I'm using these smoke grenades, I don't have to worry about my flanks as much, and I can really focus on that area. I can focus on what's in front of me, and I don't have to worry about my side flanks as much. Of course, they can still run on through, they can still catch you by surprise, but it doesn't nearly happen as often, and it's for that very reason, simply for that very reason, why I recommend it to begin with. On top of that, if that wasn't enough, and that's a really big benefit, it's also one of the best ways at denying the enemy entrance onto the objective room when you finally take it for your team. If you plant the diffuser or you're securing the area and you throw 2 smoke grenades on both entrances, the enemy is going to be terrified and very reluctant to charge through that doorway. You're going to notice multiple examples is that as soon as the enemy starts to make their way through the smoke, you see their silhouette clear as day, but on their end, I mean, if you've ever been in a smoke grenade, you know that you can't see anything in front of you, so you see them, they can't see you, and then even if they do get through the smoke somehow and you haven't taken them out, they're going to be so disoriented as to what's going on in the room that it's also going to give you plenty of time to also shoot them in the face. So not only does it allow you to cover your flanks, but if you actually do secure the area, if you are defusing the bomb, it makes it very easy to ensure that the enemy has no chance at retaking that objective and winning it for their team. The final way that I like to use this gadget is to simply just throw this on to an enemy that's entrenched in a fortified location so that they're really disoriented. As I said, if you're in a smoke grenade, you have no idea what's going on around you. And so as soon as you do this, you can either wait for them to run out, which gives you the advantage, or you can just let them sit there and allow yourself to move into a completely different location that they're not expecting, and then when the smoke grenade dissipates, you can take them out no problem whatsoever. And so it's for these 3 main reasons why I have fallen in love with this gadget, and it's really helped not only myself get a lot more kills and secure the objective and win it for my team, but it's also been very beneficial just as a team gadget in general. Now, it does come with some drawbacks. It's not perfect, and honestly, if you use this improperly, it's probably going to be more of a detriment than a benefit for your team. First and foremost, do not run through your smoke grenade if you can avoid it. A lot of times when I see people using this gadget, they throw a bunch into a room and then charge on through assuming that they're going to be safe. And while this can be a valid tactic if you are going just for the hostage, you have no plans of killing the enemy, you're just going on in to capture it and then run on out, this can be very valid. I've done it on a couple of occasions, but if you are going into that objective to secure it and hopefully kill the enemy, this isn't really going to work out in your favor, as we mentioned before. You're also going to want to avoid the fringe of the smoke grenade, the wispy parts. Because it is client side, while you might get the better flip of the coin where you see the enemy and they don't see you, I don't think it's worth it. Stay to the center, take advantage of what the smoke grenade is all about, and avoid the sides as much as possible. The funny thing is that if Capitao wasn't introduced with this most recent DLC, I still probably wouldn't be using this gadget. I don't know if it's because I'm naive, I just didn't grasp or understand how awesome it was. Maybe I was just an idiot. That's probably the case. But it seems like a lot of people were in the same boat as I was, because let's be honest, how often do you see smoke grenades being used in Rainbow Six Siege? Like, it just doesn't happen very often. And while this is just me playing on PC, maybe it's a different story on console, I hardly see them being used, and I think that's a shame, especially now that I'm starting to grasp how powerful they are in the right situation. And so if you haven't been using these very often lately, I highly recommend that you give them another try. It may take some getting used to, it may take some trial and error, but really once you get a grasp of how you're supposed to use them, I think you're gonna fall in love as well. Another downside that is worth mentioning though is that there are very few offensive operators that even have this in their repertoire. There is Ash, Montanya, Blitz, Glaz, and of course Capitao with his smoke aerial variants. Not a lot to choose from. In my opinion, I would stick with Ash and Capitao. Right now, they're one of the strongest operators on offense, and while of course you can do well with the other ones, I think for this tactic and if you want to be successful, those are really the two best choices for using the smoke grenades. If I had to make one small critique as to how Ubisoft could improve upon this though, is just to eliminate the wispy fringes. I know it might make it look much more realistic, it makes the game feel more authentic. I would much rather it be a solid block like we have something in Counter-Strike Go. I know Counter-Strike Go's smoke does not look realistic whatsoever, it's just like this solid mass of smoke in one area, but gameplay-wise, which is really important in a video game, I just think that would be the better way of handling it. And so while it's not the worst thing ever once you start to understand how to work around it, if I had to make one critique and something that I'm really hoping that Ubisoft will address in the future is to condense it and make sure that it is more of a solid block. But yeah guys, that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sure some of you are shaking your head right now thinking that this is the most obvious advice ever, but I hardly see anyone using smoke grenades in Rainbow Six Siege, and I think that's a shame. Hopefully this has convinced some of you to try it out and give it a whirl, because I really do believe that this, in the right situations and in the right hands, can be a game changer in some situations. But yeah guys, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.